Recording now. Just disclosure, we were recording this, and everyone that signed up for this event, whether even those that aren't here with us right now, we'll distribute this video link to everybody after we upload it to our YouTube so that you can go back, review, share, and for those who aren't able to make it with us right now, they can watch later. Again, thank you for being with us, taking time out of your day, your lunch hour for participating in this webinar. My name is Caleb Talley. I'm the Director of Marketing and Events at Startup Junkie. For those of you who may not be familiar with our organization, we are a high-impact, mission-driven organization based here in Northwest Arkansas that exists to empower innovators and entrepreneurs, as well as small business owners. Startup Junkie supports, inspires, and educates entrepreneurs and innovators by providing no-cost one-on-one consulting, events, workshops, things just like this that you are in today. We remove barriers for historically underserved populations by democratizing access to entrepreneurial resources and providing strategic support to any individual seeking to establish or grow their business. We're excited to have Jeff Simmons back with us today. He presented on a similar topic for retailers back in January, and we're glad to have him back. Jeff's a former state of Arkansas tax auditor, has almost 30 years of state and local tax experience. He's a graduate of Arkansas State University, where he majored in accounting and minored in computer information systems. Went to work for the Department of Finance and Administration, Office of Field Audit. He was appointed to the governor's quality management team for Field Audit, where his suggestions were implemented into law. And he does a lot of this work around the state, travels back and forth all over Arkansas, from what it sounds like, helping communities and businesses better understand these tax protocols. So without further ado, Jeff, I'll turn it over to you. Oh, and also I'll note, if you have a question for Jeff, if you want to, during the presentation, you want to have a question you think you might forget, go ahead and drop it in the chat box. If you're watching on Facebook, drop it in the comments. We'll read them out loud at the end and address those questions. All right, without further ado, there you go, Jeff.
Okay, appreciate it, Caleb. Also, if you have some questions at the end of the seminar, I'll be showing you on my homepage how you can send the questions directly to me if you don't want anybody to read out, because I know sometimes people are real confidential about what's going on with their taxes, so that's fine as well. Got one yesterday from the seminar we had back in January, was able to answer it for him, so we're good to go there. So that's another avenue for you to get some questions to me. So my name is Jeff Simmons. I'm with SALT Group. SALT stands for State and Local Tax. It's kind of a acronym in our business, and as Caleb said, I got a degree in accounting, and I went immediately to work for the Department of Finance. Now, why that is important is because when I was with getting my degree in accounting, everything was based in income tax. So if you wanted an audited income tax, I could help. If you wanted to do payroll, I could help. But there was no classes on sales tax. That's not the state universities or any university's fault. They've got students from all over, different states, and every law is different for every state. So they can't really teach a sales tax class. So the only way you can do it is go to work for the Department of Finance Administration like I did, or you can self-teach, which is just almost like showing them a pencil in your ear to get away from the pain. I started out, it got 2 years in with the state of Arkansas, stepped away, to form a group called Arkansas Tax. 2 other auditors, myself, we saw a need for someone to be representing the taxpayer out there. The state was always well represented with auditors. CPAs are not really all that trained in sales tax. There are quite a few attorneys, probably 8 to 10 attorneys who have self-taught and are really good attorneys for sales and use tax, state and local tax issues. But anyway, we formed a group called Arkansas Tax Associates. From that, one of our partners wanted to go to other items, so we bought him out, sent him on his way. We were really busy, but I wanted to get into the education process of this. And so that's kind of what we did. I kind of pulled away a little bit from the SALT Group of Arkansas, and that's what I do. I've done seminars for the Small Business Administration, for Sales and Use Tax for Arkansas, Small Business Development and Training Centers. I've done seminars for the Arkansas State Chamber of Commerce, where I spoke at the biennial tax conference on sales and use tax issues that are coming up and new laws. I've also done small seminars for CPAs who wanted me to come in and help their clients with that. So that's why I've done this. We are now, myself and an attorney that we're forming a group. It's called the Arkansas Sales Use Tax Pool. This is kind of what it's going to look like. This is a book. We're going to have a 2-day seminar starting. I think the first one's going to be in August, since we get approved by the NASBA. Our curriculum has already been sent off to them. That stands for the National Association of State Board of Accountancy. You will be able to get CPE and CLE hours because we have an attorney on staff as well. That's a 2-day class. One is a beginner. The second is an advanced class with case studies. So if you find yourself in a little bit of a loss what to do, this may be the class for you, and you can reach out to us on this. So what we're talking about today is sales tax for service providers. Now, this is you're going to hear me say sales tax several times, but Arkansas is actually a gross receipts tax in the state. Now, the difference is in the gross receipt state, if it's taxable transaction, everything that is associated with that transaction is taxable. So if you share something, you sell something to an individual and you charge them freight to ship it to them, or packaging, handling, all that is taxable as well. When there's sales tax, it states that only that the item is taxable. Any of the ancillary charges are not. Arkansas is a gross receipt state. So a lot of folks make the mistake of, okay, well, I sold my widget for $10. Freight was $5, but I only taxed $10. That is incorrect. You need to tax $15 because $10 for the widget, $5 for the freight. So that it's very important that you get all of that together. Remember, you are strictly a conduit for the sales tax. You collect it, you remit it to the state of Arkansas. You get to keep a whole 2% of it as you go along, just for administrative responsibilities of collecting and remitting. It's very important that you collect if they don't give you an exemption certificate, because like I said, you are liable. When the state comes to audit, they're going to come get you for the money. And not your customers, not your clients, they're going to get you for the money. So it's very important that you go ahead and tax everything that's supposed to be taxed. Now, there's a difference in state tax law, and we kind of covered this a little bit in the retailer side. State law states that tangible personal property is always taxable unless there's a specific exemption. So are exempt unless specifically taxed. Now, this sounds pretty simple. If you're looking through the law and you don't see your service taxed specifically, then you think, well, I'm not, I don't need to charge tax. I don't need to get a sales tax permit. Well, that's not really correct, because the state is giving different interpretations of the law now. We'll get into those in just a little bit. Just had 2 of them happen to me yesterday. As a matter of fact, I was sharing with Caleb. So if your services are listed, the services have a bunch of catch-all phrases in it, the law does. So that's where, you think, okay, well, I don't see changing a flat tire is taxable. Well, but if you start looking in it, it says motor vehicles. Oh, so now we've got to repair to a motor vehicle, even though it's just the tire, and you take it off and repair it. Well, now it's a taxable thing. This is a copy of the Arkansas Rules and Regulations book. You can see where it says gross receipts tax rules, not sales tax rules, gross receipts. That goes back to what we were saying, that in Arkansas, if the item is taxable, all the ancillary services that get it to the customer are taxable as well, for shipping, handling, packages, whatever you want to call it. All that is taxable as well. You can see at the bottom, it says it was revised October of 2008. That is a misprint. That is the latest rule book we have. Now, we've had 6 different sessions during this time. New taxability items have come on, but it's not been codified. And it has been codified, but it has not been put into the rule book. So even though you read this and you don't see your services in there, you may actually be taxable, and they're not going to give you cut you any slack just because you don't know that the law changed in 2014, but you're going by 2008 book. It seems like the state updates a rule book about every 15 years or so, every decade and a half, whether they need to or not. The last one before this was 1992, so 16 years. So we're getting right on the edge of it for them to redo it. I would look for a new rule book probably after this session is over with. So now we're going to jump in and get into what services are taxable. This is going to be kind of like drinking from a fire hose. I'm going to try to get you kind of looking at your business to make sure that you're not taxable, or that you are taxable, and what we need to do. If you have specific questions on this, please feel free to drop them to Caleb, or you can email me at the end and I'll show you how to do that. So here we go. Here's the GR9 services subject to tax, taxable services. This is straight from the rule book that I just showed you. By the way, I do have that on PDF, so if anyone needs it, you can email me, and I will send you a copy of the PDF. It's about 200 or so pages. And so you can see the items that I've highlighted there when I said phrases. Motors of all kinds, electrical appliances, electrical devices. So that covers pretty much everything service-wise. So if you're doing any repair to anything that's electrical, motor, or appliance, you better be charging tax. You know, we're not taxable. Well, if you repair a water heater, that's an electrical device. So you are, you should be registered. You can kind of read through this taxable services. They get very specific at times. It says bicycles, office machines, office equipment, shoes, tin, sheet metal. Don't know why those are specifically listed, but it's just kind of a, you would think the words that I've got highlighted above would be the catch-all phrase that would get you going on that, but it's not quite enough, I guess, for the state to get you caught up. First, all your services are in your GR9s in the book that I was describing a while ago. They start breaking it down. You got GR9, then you got GR 9.1, 2, 3, 4, all the way through 17. This is a big one for the state. Services subject to tax, lawn care, and landscaping. Everybody knows someone out there that's mowing yards, and if they're not registered, they may need to get registered, because if you're mowing or doing a single-family residence, that's exempt from tax. But if you're doing commercial or multi-residential, that's always taxable. Now, when I say always, that's kind of a misnomer. When you talk about commercial, you can be talking manufacturing facilities that are direct pay. They will get you an exemption certificate, and you might have to charge tax. But, you know, when you see single-family residential residence, that doesn't mean condos. If they're hooked together, then we're in multi-residential. It has to be a standalone single-family residential. That's a standalone house, and you have two families living in it, that's okay. The state's not going to know that. They don't care. But if you have two that are hooked together or a duplex, that's going to be taxable no matter what's going on. Now, it doesn't have to be owned by the family. It can be rent houses. You can mow a rent house, and as long as it's a single-family residence, it's exempt from tax. Now, what's interesting about this, as you see, it says lawn care includes mowing, raking, trimming, chemical spraying, fertilizing. I've had, yesterday afternoon, I had 2 chemical sprayers call me. They had just gotten audited. The state's taken a different interpretation of spraying and fertilizing, and saying now that their fertilizer and their spray is taxable, where it's been exempt all along. Doesn't sound like a big deal, but it was to the gentleman who called me first. He owes about $140,000 because he wasn't paying tax on the chemicals that he was using, even though it says here that it's exempt and they can buy it, sell for resale. So interpretations come out that kind of change the law every now and then on you that you don't know about. You may be up in Northwest Arkansas. Someone in El Dorado may have gotten audited, and all of a sudden they made the wrong argument. The Department of Finance fines against them, and now it's taxable all across the state. You've been doing things right up in Fayetteville, but the people in El Dorado made the wrong argument. Now you could be on the hook. So it's always best to stay on top of everything. You can email me if you ever have any questions about that, and we'll try to keep you on board. So we said lawn care and landscaping. Here's your landscaping definition. Landscaping means the installation, preservation, or enhancement of ground covering by planting trees, bushes, shrubberies, grass, flowers, and other types of decorative plants. Now, when I was getting ready for this seminar, I noticed a little carve out that I've never noticed before. I've only been doing this 30 years, but every now and then you just kind of read something that hits you different. It says putting down bark, tree bark, is not taxable. That's mainly what mulch is, but the state taxes mulch. So this may be a little gray area. We're fixing to expand into it. But if you're doing landscaping and you're planting anything, it doesn't matter if you're doing it in a single family residence, if you're doing it in a multi-family residence, if you're doing it commercial, that's always going to be taxable. The planting and the preservation of ground covering is usually taxable. The mulch thing is kind of something new, and it kind of caught me by surprise. And so I always go back and kind of reread stuff. And like I said, this caught me, I've been doing this 30 years and never knew of it. Excuse me, I'm not used to talking this much. So here's another list of services that are taxable: temporary or leased employees, Cleaning. Now we're getting into janitorial services. It doesn't matter if you clean a single family residence, if you clean a factory, if you clean a dress shop, that's going to be taxable. Now the state has what's called the Nexus Discovery Unit out there, and they are going around on the internet, Facebook, see who all's doing cleaning, because you'll see all these pop up, hey, I'm starting to clean houses, give me a shout and I'll get you a bid. Well, you see that with lawn care. The state is out there monitoring this stuff, and they're getting folks registered. Now, the state can only audit normally for a 3-year period, but if you've never been registered, they can go back 6 years. So it's very important to get this done on the front. With cleaning, janitorial services, that is a for the auditors. And this is what usually new auditors come in and do. They will audit janitorial services, lawn care, because not much is exempt other than single family residence for lawn care. But for janitorial, there's nothing. This allows the auditor to get his feet wet, get a good tax due audit, and really not have to think too much on what he's doing, because the state recommends, state says it's taxable. Now, as you also go down through here, you see wrecker and towing services. If you have a wrecker pick you up and take you to the body shop, or if you're a wrecker provider, you better be charging tax. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Collection and disposal of solid waste. This made trash pickup taxable. It affected a lot of municipalities. A lot of them didn't know about it. They weren't charging tax originally on garbage because it was not taxable, but now it is. So when they come to pick up your garbage and it's on your bill, your water bill, it'll have tax on it. Cleaning parking lots and gutters. This kind of goes back to the janitorial services up in 9.4. If they come in and sweep your parking lot and clean your gutter, then it's taxable. Now, there's a lot of cleaning that goes on, like in the janitorial side. If you have a painter come in and he has to clean your wall to paint it, you have to look at the true object of the service. At that point in time, the true object is actually painting. It is not cleaning. So he's not really a janitorial service. Same thing kind of with gutters. We just had this pop up. I know you think it would never pop up. We had a company that had the roof put on. They took the gutters down, washed them off, and put them back up. Well, they had to take the gutters down and put the new roof back up, but the state tried to tax the entire roof at that point in time. They are a contractor and normally don't charge tax, but the state was trying to pick it up, so we had to do the true object test. The true object test at that point stated they were actually doing the roof. They were not doing gutter cleaning, so they just allowed. We actually won that one in hearing. There's not much that you win in hearing. Usually you win everything pre-hearing. We'll kind of cover your ability to protest audits here in a little while, but we'll get to that at the end. We're going to go ahead and go into the services. Dry cleaning and laundry services. If you open the dry cleaners, you better be charging tax. You have some specific exemptions, but whatever you charge your customer, that is taxable. Now you think, okay, we're at 9.8. We keep going. We got body piercing, tattooing, and electrolysis. If you're a tattoo artist, if you're piercing ears, noses, belly buttons, or if you're removing unwanted hair, you better be charging tax. If you notice, all these services are kind of odd. The reason these services were picked out was because these folks are just kind of a loose affiliation. They do not have a great, what I call lobbying service, so they were easy to pick off. So that's why you see body piercing, tattoo, and electrolysis. You kind of wonder why. Well, that's because they're all doing their own thing, and so they did not, they put up a fuss. They're just passing the tax on too, if they're registered. But if you do body piercing, tattooing, and electrolysis, you better be charging tax. Pest control services. This includes coming and spray your house for bugs. It also includes termite inspections, termite control. Pest control services do not know this. So if you're doing pest control services, you need to be charging tax. So you get some specific exemptions, like the poison that you put out or the traps that you put out, that's exempt as well. Security and alarm monitoring services. This is a big one. There's not too many places anymore that do not have security and alarm monitoring services. So if you're in the position of providing security or alarm monitoring services, you better be charging tax on those services. If you only bill once a year, or if you bill monthly, it needs to have tax on it. Boat storage and docking. It's kind of what they call the luxury tax. If you have a boat, And this applies back also to mini storages. Some of the mini storages do boat storage. Mini storages used to be taxable. They got removed from the law as taxable, but the boat storage part did not. So a lot of mini storages, if you own them, have gotten caught short because they're storing boats. And so that is the taxable portion of their service. The docking, if they store it, if you had a boat ramp or whatever, then they're pulling it out and putting it up for you. You need to be charging tax too. Furnishing camping or trailer spaces. This does not apply to if you have a trailer park. This does not apply. This is mainly for short term. Arkansas is about the only place I know that will charge you tax to rent some asphalt or some concrete. And so you have to, if you have a short-term camping facility or short-term trailer rental, better be charging tax. Locksmith services. This is a big one. A lot of money has been generated off of this. A lot of funding has been generated off of this. This not only applies to cars, but it also applies to your house. If they come out and rekey your house, if they put new locks on your house. If you're doing this, you need to be registered. Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot other than your key stock that's going to be exempt for you on this, but you do at least get your key stock exempt. But the labor and everything that goes along with all of these, that's what the services are mainly about, or the labor. If you'll notice, most of these services do not have huge, what we would call material base. It's all pretty much labor services. So if you don't have the big material base, that's why these services are being picked up. Pet grooming and kennel services. If you take your dog down, or if you own a pet grooming facility, or if you store dogs overnight and train them, you better be charging tax. Now, the pet grooming, this applies to veterinarians as well. They do grooming services. They also do kennel services. A lot of veterinarians do not know about this. So if you have any veterinarian folks out there, you better be charging tax on your services there, because the state will come after you. Usually veterinarians are registered because they sell food. But in this case, the pet grooming and their kennel services are also taxable too. We're starting to see an uptick on audits on those as well. Here's the 9.17, subject to tax initial installation. Initial installation of anything used to be tax exempt. It is now pretty much taxable. If you notice all the wording here, I've got motors of all kinds, flooring. If you notice along this line that it's a whole lot of the same wording. We'll go down here: engineering instruments, medical surgical instruments, bicycles, office machines, shoes, tin, sheet metal, mechanical tools. That is the same exact wording that you see up here in GR9 services subject to tax. These are just the taxable services. Down here, they pop you for the initial installation. Like I said, initial installation used to be exempt of anything, but now it's not. And this is where they catch you, is on the 9.17 initial installation. If you look, that wording is the same as exactly the wording on the other side. Now, if you have any questions about these slides at the end, they will be on my webpage. You can go back and click on them, kind of look at them and see what you need, what you want to discuss. But there you go. There's your words again: office machines, bicycles, shoes, tin, sheet metal, mechanical tools, and shop equipment. So you got to be prepared if you're in the service industry to be charging tax. There's also some other little taxes that are services out there: printing and photography, job printers, printers as manufacturers. Job printers used to be taxable straight through, no matter what they did. This job printers refer to people that print like business cards, letterheads, that kind of stuff. There's a bill going through right now trying to exempt them all as manufacturers, so they would get a lot of exemptions. But a job printer, unfortunately, the paper that he uses, the ink that he uses to present to your business cards, your letterhead, your envelopes, whatever, he cannot buy that, sell for resale. It is not an exempt purchase for him, because he's not making an article of commerce. Your business card is only relative to you. It's not relative to anybody else. So therefore, that throws the article of commerce rule out. So he can't buy his material, sell for resale. His printing is taxable. So they kind of get shafted on both ends, to be honest with you. They have to pay tax on their materials, then they have to charge tax when they sell it. So it's kind of a double taxation. Most job printers don't know that. They print, they buy their stuff, sell for resale, because they think they're charging tax on the material, but actually what they're charging tax on is the service, the labor to print that stuff. Another one is funeral homes and funeral directors. They get you on the way out, the state of Arkansas does. Most funeral homes and funeral directors know this, but once again, we're back to what we're talking about. This is a gross receipt state. So anything associated with the funeral is taxable. Now, we're going to kind of talk a little bit about if you get audited or if you get a letter from the Nexus and Discovery Unit, what to do. The Nexus and Discovery Unit, like I said, is prowling Facebook totally all the time. They're looking at people cleaning houses, doing computer repair. That's another one that's not listed as computer repair, mainly because it's not really listed as a taxable service, but it has morphed in the last few years to include taxable items. Used to programming was exempt. If they came in and removed a virus from your computer, that was not taxable. Now, it is taxable if they come in and actually lay hands on your computer. If they do it remotely, well, that's not taxable. I can't figure out why the line is drawn there, but this is kind of how things evolve quickly on you, and so it's best to try to stay on top of it. I've not, the computer thing is just a whole new pot of money, really, I guess you want to say, for the state to try to reach out and grab. So that's kind of what they're doing. So if you're doing remote services, that's going to be exempt. But if you're actually coming in and laying hands on a computer or removing viruses or setting up computers, that is taxable. Now, should you ever get a letter from the Nexus and Discovery Unit, your best bet is to, first of all, call them. Don't ignore it, because you will get an arbitrary assessment based on the average sales of people in your SIC code. If you're small and you're cleaning 2 houses, you're going to be thrown in the janitorial with OJ cleaning service and all of those, and you're going to get a huge bill. So first of all, do not ignore it. Reach out to your tax professional. If that's a CPA that you trust that knows sales tax, if there's an attorney that you know that knows sales tax, and there's a good 8 to 10 12 of them that really are self-taught and on state and local tax issues, reach out to them. Reach out to us, but please do not go into this alone, because it will not be good. As I told you, the gentleman yesterday, spraying service, a little change in interpretation, and it's costing him $140,000. So first of all, you respond back to it, or if you get a letter for audit, then you need to respond to that too. Excuse me. Now, when you get your audit, the auditor will go through, he'll request certain records, and you will find those records, or once again, you'll be hit with an arbitrary assessment. But what you do, you provide the records, and this is where the negotiations start back and forth. That's when you need a professional in on your side to help you with the audit going on. This is where most of your items can be removed with the auditor, but what's not, then it gets written up. You can protest the audit at that time to Revenue Legal Counsel, and they will contact you directly to set up for a hearing with an administrative law judge. As I said, this administrative law judge is right next door to Revenue Legal Counsel, so they talk. Let's be realistic, they talk. So, but you want to get everything you possibly can removed with the attorney before you go to the hearing. At this point in time, at the hearing process, about 92% of the cases go the state's way. So once you get to the hearing process, you're kind of out on your own. But you do have several issues after that, avenues, excuse me. If you lose there, you can appeal straight to the commissioner. Usually this gets kicked back to the attorney that was on the other side of your hearing, and he writes it up. So he's not going to write up against himself. And then you can take it to court. They know with these services that you're relatively small, and so they want to, that's why they kind of come in and do the services. It would cost you more to take it to court than it would to just pay the audit. You had a little photographer out there, and they've not been charging tax. They've not been charging tax on the pictures. They've not been charging tax on your sitting fees, viewing fees, and they may owe $10,000. Well, it's not worth it to take it to court. They're caught. They just pay it, and you go on. So now, we kind of talked about that. That's your remedy. Is first you got to work it out with the auditor. You can go into a conference with their supervisor and the manager of the district, and you can go to the hearing, between the hearing and the conference with the manager supervisor, the attorney has a little bit of legal leeway there to kind of help it out. They really don't want any of these hearing decisions out there where they're giving stuff away. So that's all done there, does not get published. And your next step is to go to a commissioner's review. The next step after that is to go to court. So, but your best bet is just to get it right on the front end. You know, if you have a service you think might be taxable or you're not taxing it, you do have several avenues there as well. There's a voluntary disclosure agreement. If you do a voluntary disclosure agreement, the state will only pick up the last 3 years. They will not apply a penalty. They will apply interest at 10% per annum, but that limits them. They can't go back 6 years because you've not been registered. If they catch you, they can go back 6 years. If you voluntarily disclose, it's only 3 years. And if you're doing any of these services we talked about, you guys need to get registered. And if you have any questions about how to do that, then you can just shoot me an email, or you can drop it in the chat box and Caleb will get to us. This is my webpage. It's assault-ar.com. As you can see, the arrow at the top says contact. If you send an email through that, it comes directly to me. It goes to no one else in our organization, straight to me. This happened yesterday with a gentleman, like I said, from our January webinar. He asked me a couple of questions and we were able to talk back and forth and walk him through. I usually don't charge anything. If you have just a couple of quick questions and I can get to it. If you need legal opinions written, that's a different animal. Or if it takes quite a bit of research, you know, we may have a little cost there. But usually most questions I can answer right off the top of my head, and we can get you going there and I can show you in the law exactly where it's at. And Caleb, do we have any questions out there?
I don't see any questions just yet. If anybody has any questions for Jeff, feel free to either drop them in the chat box or unmute and ask away. As I mentioned before and mentioned in the chat, you know, we'll make these resources available to everybody, and I will send out the video and this information to you and copy Jeff so that you can have easy access to reach out to him if you have questions. Like he said, some of these tax-related questions you might not want to ask just out loud. So, like I said, feel free to ask right now or drop it in the chat and we'll read it.
If you want to take me through the contact box, feel free to do that. I'm good any way you want to
go. We do have a question. Alicia Hamilton asked, she said, sorry if I missed it, but are education services taxable?
What kind of education services are we? That's, you know, I would need a little bit more information about that, kind of see what it is she's doing. For educational services, she's doing like strictly tutoring. No, her materials would be taxable. You know, if she's has to put in materials, or if she's doing seminars or whatever else, materials along that line may be taxable. But if it's strictly tutoring, no. But I would probably need a little bit more information about what it is she's considering as educational services, because there are so many ways that they can hook you into my service taxable. I would rather know exactly what it is you're doing. So if you want to email me or drop it back in the chat box, please feel free and we'll go from there.
She said she provides an assessment service for early childhood. No physical materials, but access to assessment.
Not taxable at all.
Awesome.
Good.
And Jim said, are barber and hair salon services taxable?
They are not at this point in time. I fully expect they're probably going to come back into another emergency services, and I do look for that service to be picked up. But right now, barber services and hair cutting and all that is not taxable. Now, the products that they sell you, of course, are. The products that they use in the service are taxable to them. But right now, they do not need to register and collect tax just for strictly or haircuts.
And Bradley asked, what about deliverable reports from a study contract?
There we go. This gets back to the true object. This is what we kind of rushed across this. That's a loaded question. I'll tell you right now, Bradley. It's one of those that, depending on what the true object of what it is you're doing, how it's set up, the state is now starting to try to tax not so much internet services, but database services where you go out strictly to grab information. That's becoming a new buzzword in taxability. So you know, I need to know a little bit more in depth, like we did a while ago with the educational services, what exactly it is that you're doing, so we can see if you're just writing up a report, then no, it's not taxable. It's similar to what I would call a financial house, and you get your title documents. Yeah, you're getting documents, but the true object of that was to be able to finance your house, so they don't need to charge you tax. If that's kind of what you're doing, then I think you're good. But boy, I sure would like a little bit more information before I go out on a total limb.
Well, it looks like we don't have any questions on Facebook either at this moment. Anybody else with a question? All right, if not, we will let everybody get back to their day. And Bradley said this would be benchmarking software performance and presenting results.
Now, once again, that's bringing up more questions, Bradley. Are they going to have access to the software where they can log in and see information? Or, that's, I think we probably need to talk a little bit more in depth about what it is exactly that you're doing. And my phone number is on this page here. You can email me and shoot me your number and I'll give you a holler. But so you're starting to cross over into data services issue, providing reports. Is it limited access, private access for them? So that is some items that could be picked up as taxable. So we probably need to look into that a little bit more in depth.
Kevin asked, what about photography retouching?
Yes. Under photography services. Another thing the state has done is picked up, unfortunately, as photography, they've come out with the like the sneak peek videos where you get to see your baby. And they've said now that is photography, even though it's technically not photography, but they've started taxing that as well. And that's another one of those where they spun off a little bit different interpretation and started making that taxable. But if you are touching up photos and they have the ability to download those photos, print off those photos, you ship those photos to them, and that falls under the photography category being taxable.
Well, I thank everybody for joining us today, for tuning in, participating. Jeff, thank you so much for presenting, taking the time to highlight this information. Like I said, I'm going to send a follow-up email to everybody this afternoon with a link to this video and other resources, and encourage anybody, if you have additional questions, to reach out to Jeff, have a conversation, and everybody have a great day.
I appreciate it.